Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where you can come on a Wednesday and have your brunch and lunch and spend 2 hours with us and learn a lot about technology. Today, we are going to be focusing on genealogy. And we have a nice panel of people who are going to be speaking today. Susan Mueller is our newest one, so we're excited to have her. She's a retired educator and administrator and member of the Computer Users of Erie in Pennsylvania. She has lived in Girard, Pennsylvania for 48 years and has been working seriously on genealogy for more than 25 years and has used Family Tree Maker since 1996. And she's a guinea pig for being a beta tester since 2012. And she teaches monthly genealogy classes for the Erie County Public Library. She will be giving very soon a overview presentation on everything genealogy. And then she will be talking about the Family Tree Maker. And then following her, Orv Beach will be back with us talking about another genealogy program called Gramps, and then Murray Strome will be here and sharing with his. So without any further ado, I think that we will turn things over to Susan and learn a lot about genealogy today.
Okay. I thought I'd start by, if I can get my slideshow here, talking a little bit about why you want to use genealogy software and a little background. And just a little advertisement. If you are in need of a genealogy speaker, I have over 30 presentations and topics with handouts, and you can't beat the price. So, and you will be getting a copy of these slides for your handout. So do not try to write down everything that's on the slide because you'll have it in your hands. So some of you may say, well, why do I need to buy software when I could put my family tree online? And there are lots of places where you can put your family tree online. Those are just a few of them. Of course, all these sites would like to have your money. So your ability to have their source documents is going to be tied to whether you have a subscription there or not. Although the Roots Web one is totally free, but that's just facts and dates and people's names, no media files. The danger, of course, of having your data online is it's only accessible when if the site has a problem that you can't get on, or you can lose your internet connection. And there's always the possibility that the site's going to go out of business. And I will tell you that even Ancestry, probably about 2013, it used to be that you could work on a family history book and do it online. And one day they decided that was not one of their parameters, and they deleted everybody's book without any warning. So even the big guys can screw you over. So you may not want to only have your data online. Well, then maybe you want to have it only on your computer. I hope I'm singing to the choir here. If you're not backing up in multiple places all of your data, you need to start doing it. But if you're going to share it with others, how's that going to work? And it's not a matter of if you are going to have some kind of computer problem, it's when. So this is my byword. I have lots of copies. In fact, I have cloud backup automatic every night. I back up once a week. I do a total backup of my computer every Saturday on a supplemental hard drive, which I detach from the computer when I'm done. And I have never had, knock on wood, a disaster with my computer, but I know it's only a matter of time. So that's what I I do, and I would recommend it to all of you too. If you're working on genealogy, you know how many hours you've put in it. You don't want it to disappear. So genealogy software basically is a database that's designed to for genealogy. So you enter the information only once. You can do electronic searches for persons, places, dates. You can, do a search for everybody who died in November of 1968 if you want. As long as the data is in there, you can search it. You can use consistency for dates, place names, and names. The only thing that Family Tree Maker does that I don't like, that I refuse to do, is I like my nicknames in quotes with the name, and they don't like that. But that's just a personal preference. They want to set it up a different way. But the source documents will come on your computer, and they will be yours. Even if you stop subscribing to Ancestry or MyHeritage, you will still have your source documents as long as you're using the software. Plus, the numbers that you're going to get as you start doing your research are going to be totally unmanageable. This is how many people you would have in your family tree if you went back 11 generations and nobody had a brother or a sister and everybody only had one offspring. You would already have 2,046 people in your family tree. So it's a way bigger number than you can easily manage. I do have friends that are doing paper and pencil genealogy, and let me tell you, they have more paper at their house than I have at my house, and I have a lot of paper. The true value to me is that you always have the proof documents. You can attach pictures, you can attach movies, recordings. You can publish reports and charts that are easy to share. They can be done as PDFs or as Word documents. And whatever change you make to your database, you discover you made a mistake, it automatically updates all the reports. Now, what if you decide to use a piece of software that becomes obsolete and they don't have upgrades? Or can you convert to another genealogical software program? Yes, you can convert. Will you be satisfied? No, you won't be, because there's a universal talking language for software, genealogical software, but it doesn't import or export your media files. So let's say Uncle Ed had an old, he was working on family history and he passed away, but you got his computer and you got, you have his files. What's the file extension? You can probably open it up if it's an old form of software. Do a Google search for the extension, locate the software to open it. Worst comes to worst, you'll be able to open it as a text document, but you will not get any of the source documents. Now, obviously, if you have access to Uncle Ed's computer, you will have the media files, but you will have to attach those by hand, which is going to be a cumbersome process, especially if Uncle Ed had 2,000 people in the database. So a GEDCOM will allow the softwares to talk to each other, but it's names, dates, and facts. It will give you, as long as you have sourced the documents in your software, then it will give you that information. It will not give you the document. So let's say Uncle Ed, he didn't use software. He had his family tree on Ancestry. Well, if Uncle Ed had given you editor rights, you might be able to download or save the tree online. With Ancestry, you can't. With MyHeritage, I believe you can. If you really need his username and password, if he did not give it to you before he passed on, if you can prove that you have the rights, in other words, you're the executor or whatever, you can work with Ancestry and you can get access to that file. And I assume that MyHeritage and the other folks that are doing online family trees are doing the same. Of course, you ought to be thinking about what's going to happen to your files when you pass, because I just want to tell you this, that's another thing that is going to happen, and it's probably when you least expect it. So plan ahead. I think I said all that. If you have newer software, the import is cleaner. If you can't save it as a GEDCOM 5.5, which is the latest version, it may not be totally clean, but it will allow you to share information with others. If someone doesn't have any media files, you'll get all the information will come into the new software. But if they have media files, it's not going to be an easy process. And so what you want to do is make the decision for the right software for you. And it may not be Family Tree Maker, it was the right one for me, but you need to do your research to see what kind of software is going to work for you. That's the GEDCOM. I guess I say this over and over because I've helped people with this process and they're not happy. I mentioned Family Search as a place to put your tree. I would recommend that you don't put your tree there because it's a wiki. And there are some other sites that do wikis. And I don't know if all of you know what a wiki is, but it's a collaborative effort. But what that means is your family tree is there and anybody can work on it. I don't know about you, but I can make mistakes without anybody's help. I would prefer to just make my own mistakes and not have people work on my tree. I'm happy if people make suggestions to me that I have a mistake in my tree that I can change or re-research. But they can delete your mother, they can decease people, they just make changes. And it's not a good situation, but Family Search is trying, that's the Mormon site, if you're not familiar with it. They're trying to develop a worldwide tree, which means that, you know, everybody should be able to work on everybody else's tree. So I'm here to tell you that any software is better than no software at all. They all do convert to a GEDCOM, but you're not going to be happy with a GEDCOM if you're working and you have source documents or pictures or letters or anything that you have attached to people. You won't be happy with that process. So here's what you need to consider when you're going to purchase genealogy software. Is it easy to learn? And I suppose you want to talk to friends and see what they have. How much does it cost? Is that a factor for you? How good is the technical support? Is it easy to enter data? If you upgrade to a newer version, is that conversion easy? And if you're using a Mac or a Linux, or you know, what's your operating system, or what devices do you want to be able to access it with? Is it compatible with that? I can't imagine working on my phone doing genealogy, but I do know people that do that. Can you share information with friends and family relatives? What kind of reports can you make? Can you customize them? What's important for you in the software? Is it important that you can integrate the person with worldwide and local events and develop a timeline? A lot of software does have that factor. Not so much place sensitive, but worldwide. So read reviews. There's a lot out there that compare charts of you know, what one does, what another one does. Some software packages offer a free trial or a trial version. Family Tree Maker does not. Although I will tell you, with the 2012 version, they sent 2 discs. This was back in the old days when they actually sent you a disc. And they said, please share with a friend. So I take that to mean that I could make copies of 2012 for anybody and pass it on to them. And that would be a way that they could test it out. I will tell you that you definitely want your software to automatically do your sourcing for you. Do you want to write where a document came from with every time you upload a census, or you got a picture from another website? If it's going to source it for you, it will make it much easier. And then when somebody says, where'd you get that information? You can look and find out where it actually came from and whether it was reliable or not. So back in '96, I chose Family Tree Maker. And at that time, it was probably considered to be the Cadillac of genealogy software. It was owned by Broderbund at that time, and then Ancestry bought it, and now it's owned by New Guys. Now the New Guys, Makiev, they did the Apple version of the software for Ancestry, so they didn't come into the software without any training. They also, have things like Mavis Beacon does typing. They have a broad spectrum of software. They have developed a way that they can continue to get your money. And so the big new feature in the Family Tree Maker 2019 is they offer Tree Vault cloud service. And it's free the first year when you buy your software, and then after that it's $20 a year. But as I mentioned before, I'm already backing up in multiple ways, so that's not particularly attractive to me, nor is it very attractive to me to continue to pay somebody for life for my software. But that's me. It has hints in the index. It has a neat little feature called Next of Kin, where you can designate somebody to be able to use your software and your account, if you will, after you pass. And it's like leaving it in your will. And they have media files. They have some tools that inside the software that you can enhance your media files. I use Photoshop Elements, but that's primarily for pictures. So some of their software, the photo darkroom software, is a little better for enhancing typed materials or handwritten materials. And they have another feature that you can turn back in time to go to the last 1,000 changes you made to a Family Tree Maker. I'm not sure how you could make 1,000 changes and realize that 1,000 changes ago you made a mistake, but that's another issue. But it is one of their features. So one of the complaints about the software is that it didn't work well with the phone. So the Tree Vault thing does make it a little bit easier to use with your smartphone. Now, why you would want to know what the weather was like on a specific day, I'm not too sure. But I suppose if there was a tornado or some local disaster, you might want to know. And I mentioned about the Next of Kin. So how much does it cost? Yes, it's one of the more expensive softwares, I guess. It's $79. I pulled this off the other day, so I assume this is still good. But if you want it on a CD, it's another $10. Notice that little plus $5.95 shipping and handling down there. And then if you want it on a flash drive, it's the same deal. It's still another $10 and another $6 for shipping. I don't know why you would want to pay more than $79, because you can put it on a CD if you want it on a CD, or you can put it on a flash drive. That does allow you to put it on your own devices. So I have it on my laptop and my computer for well, actually, I haven't put 2019 on my computer. I'm still using 2017. So that's going to be what I'm actually going to show you today. But it syncs with Ancestry, which is a subscription site. If you have a Fold 3 subscription, more money, ka-ching, ka-ching, it syncs with that. It also syncs with newspapers.com Publishers Extra, which is another subscription site, and Find a Grave, because Find a Grave is now owned by Ancestry. And it also will sync with Family Search. So that means that it will merge a document, put it automatically in with your software, attached to whatever people you say it applies to, and it will also then write where it came from, census, whatever the MLA is for the document itself. And then you will be able to, in the software, click to see where that document is. And as long as you continue to have a subscription to those sites, you will be able to see it live online. But should you stop your Ancestry subscription, even though you have the source document, you wouldn't be able to link with it on Ancestry live. You still have the document. Some of my favorite features, I love this one. You can, with one click, you can order all the children in all the families in your whole tree. And that means I can put them in order of birth, which seems to me to be the most logical way to have the children. And then from then on, any children you enter, as long as you put a birth date in there, they will be in order after you do that, set it up. I like the fact that you could privatize specific media. I have my parents' death certificates, for instance, and they died more recently, and I'd rather not have that information be public. So I can privatize that piece of media. Now, all genealogical software has the ability, it will, when you're sharing it, it will automatically privatize live people. And the way it determines whether somebody is live in general is if their birth date, they're more than 105 years old, that assumes they're dead. Or if there is any entry in the death. In other words, if you thought grandma was going to die in Cameron County, PA, and you put that in, even though she was alive and kicking, as long as there was information there, it would have her as being deceased. So don't put any information there if somebody's not live. I found one tree online where somebody had put, instead of 1942, they'd put 42 for the year of birth, and all those live people were visible because it was assumed that they were born in, the ancestry assumed they were born in 47, 42 AD. So be careful that you enter that correctly. You can put relationships, adopted, foster, step in there. I believe that Family Tree Maker is one of the few softwares that now provides for same-sex marriages, where you can, define the spouse as the same sex. There are some nice index sort features, especially if you forget somebody's maiden name and you're looking for, you can sort the names by first name instead of family name. I still think that the most important thing that the genealogy software does is that it downloads the information from the source and sources of the document itself, records where it came from. But I encourage you to always look at the original document. All the information does not come off into the software. Important things, let's say, and I'm like a death certificate. If I download a death certificate from Ancestry, it does not put where the person is buried. It does not put the name of the informant on the in your software. So you need to pick those things up yourself. And I apologize for my ringing phone here. Okay, here's a little bit about the photo tools. As I say, I don't use it at all for the pictures, but it will allow you to create slideshows, and you can scan images directly into the tree with their photo darkroom. This companion guide, they still have not printed this, but they'll take orders, and I don't remember how much it is, $59, I want to say. And they did this with the 2017 version too. It was years after the software was available, before they actually had a printed guide. I don't know why they do that, but the people do have they have a history of doing that. However, a PDF of the companion guide is included with the software, or you can download it for free from online. So I wouldn't rush out and place an order for the companion guide, although it is nice to hold it in your hands. The PDF, the bad thing about that is it's set up, the book is not an 8.5 by 11, so it doesn't print nicely on a piece of paper. It's bigger than 5 by 8, but it's an odd size. The technical support, I would say, is very good, but if you like to speak to people on the telephone, you're not going to like that. When Ancestry owned it, the technical support was very poor because the people that were answering your questions did not use the software. So they had a book, and you know the danger of that. But the people who are answering your questions in the chat box or chat screen, they know what they're talking about. They'll ask you sometimes to give them a crash report, or they'll show you how to do that. If they don't know the answer, they will get back to you with the answer. They also, there's Facebook groups for Family Tree Maker, and the support staff monitors those on a regular basis and answers questions. So I think they're doing a good job about that. So let's take a look at the software. Let's go. Let me close this out. And open. Now, I'm working on let me move this out of here. I'm working on a tree for some friends of mine. They also have an Ancestry account. So I can log into their Ancestry account and do the work. One of the nice things about this software is you can do a multiple computer Ancestry sync. So I have this tree synced on my laptop and my computer and Ancestry. And my friends have this software. They bought the software also, and they have it on a computer and a laptop, and they can sync it from Ancestry. So when I make changes in Ancestry, they can go on. And how do they know if they're the most up to date? You see this little box up here in the corner that has right now 2 arrows there. It means, and it says right there, your Ancestry linked trees has changes. I do not usually work on the laptop, so I do most of my work on my PC, and I have a 27-inch screen. So when you get old, it's hard to see these little screens. So that works. So all I have to do to sync that would be to click that, and it would sync. But before I sync, I always do several things to make it. I'm very anal, and that makes a good genealogist, but it can be frustrating for people. Let me show you the plan screen first. This shows me I need a sync. I only have one tree on her account, so I can't show you that, you know, that there's other trees on Ancestry in her account. But it shows when the last sync was, and you can see I haven't been on the laptop for a while, and when the last online tree was changed was on the 18th. The last time it was backed up, how big it is, how many marriages there are, how many people in there, what, you know. So then the people, now, right now it's in the sort for a family given name, but look at the other options. I can do sort by birth date. You say, why would you want to do that? Well, if I suddenly knew birth certificates became available online, I might, and I have most of my ancestors settled in Pennsylvania. I might want to see who I could get those for, and being able to sort it that way or by death date is great. So I like that. I can add things into the index. And usually what I do is the lifespan. It's not so bad with my friends here, tree here, but my maiden name was Bowser. And let me tell you, the Bowsers were fruitful and multiplied, but they also loved the names Jacob and Margaret. And I bet I have 20 Jacob Bowsers in my tree. So to determine which is the right one, having the dates there is very helpful. If you do not like the display of this way, you can change it to, well, be ornery this way, which of course I don't like. You can automatically set it to go to your home person. You can change the home person if you're trying to figure out what the various relationships are, because I can pick anybody in the tree. Let me get into a different name here. And it will tell me how this person is related to the home person. Look, mother-in-law, first cousin, one time removed, of husband of. No, so no matter how the relationship is, it'll tell you what it is. When it gets confusing is I have my 3 times great grandparents were first, their grandfathers were first cousins. It does get confusing there because the line comes in 2 ways. Okay, the little button to order the children is right here. Oops, right here. Sort, and then there's an option to do it for the whole tree, which of course I've already done. And I can show where there's blended families. I could show that. I could hide that, this whole screen here if I wanted to see bigger. And on my larger monitor, I have it set up to see 4 generations here, but with the small, you can move these, you know, you can make things bigger or smaller, or move those around. So let's look at, oh, the places. I left some of these not right so you could see. Remember I said I was anal? I want all the place names to be exactly, set up exactly the same way. And luckily when I started, I didn't know any better, but I set it up so that my preferred way was town, county with no word county in it, and state written completely out, and then USA. And I thought afterwards, geez, I probably should have set that up to have the just the PA. And I'm in communication with somebody from Sweden working on this tree. And she said to me, I am so glad that you have, you know, the whole name of the state, because I have no idea. And I thought, I never even thought of that. Because my whole perspective is people from the United States. So and I never you can globally change when you have things, town names don't fit the pattern that you're using. But I never do that because I want to check. Sometimes you have outliers and you've loaded something into your tree that's wrong. My favorite story on that one is I had somebody that died in China. And I'm thinking, how that's not possible. And it turned out, well, I had to do more research. And it turned out she really did die in China. She was a nun and she was on a missionary trip. So sometimes things that seem to be mistakes. So what I do when I want to make a change is I just go over here to the person and edit the person. And then I make the changes, and this screen isn't wide enough to show me what's going on here. And then I would change it in here and see anyone that doesn't have the USA or has weird things in there. Like this one doesn't have USA. So that's what it wants me to do. So I just replace it. I don't have to do any typing for that. And then the database for the recognized towns, of course, are present day. So, well, let's say in my local community, there's a town named Lake City, but years ago that was North Girard. So North Girard isn't one of those that would be accepted into the database, if you will, as being correct. So what I do is I put Lake City, but that's because I know what it is. And then I put formerly North Girard. So you have to learn your geography as you do this to make it correct. I'm not going to go through and make all the changes that need to be made, but what I do is I go through and I correct all the place names before I would sync it, so that I'm not syncing things that need to be changed later on. But when I'm in the place name, see, it shows me where it is on Google Maps. And why do you want to have this right? Well, you can do a search by a place name and you can see who was ever lived there at that time, whether people could connect. Sometimes you get marriages between two people back a couple hundred years ago that you got to figure out how they came together, because one was born, in New Hampshire and the other was born in Georgia. Did it really happen? Sometimes it did. Sometimes you just discovered somebody with the same name. So let's take a look at the reports, which I'm going to have to move this down so I can see. And that's under publish. And actually, I had one going there, but let me, there's all kinds of charts. There's all kinds of reports that you can do. And let's see, if I'm going to create a report, then it gives me the options of how many generations, like, well, 4 generations probably wouldn't cut it. I want to go back. The thing that I don't like about the software, I will tell you why I still have a version, the 2014 version on my computer, is that even if I can save it as a PDF, I can save it as a text document. So then you'd think, okay, then you can make changes in Word. Well, yeah, I can make changes, but the way it generates in this, here's a generated report. Well, first of all, you see there's some things that aren't clean there, but do you see that? Can you see that little box? Everything's in a text box. Do you know how many hours I could spend trying to make that into a nice Word box or Word document where I like the formatting, where I had, larger margin or less margins no. But in 2014, I can play with it correctly. And when I did the beta testing, that was one of the things I complained about, but I guess I was a little tiny voice that nobody paid any attention to. So I don't know, I guess maybe a lot of people would be satisfied with the way this is formatted, but it takes up a lot of pages. And I generally, when I'm doing a report for family and friends, I will change like New York and Pennsylvania, and I will get rid of the USA. I will use the abbreviations. So I'm cutting down on what's there. Plus I have more document on a page. You can see there's a lot of white space here. I don't need to indent that far. And I always put a header and a footer on a page when I'm doing that. So that's one thing I'm not happy with, but my workaround is I can save it as a 2014 and I can then do my report in 2014 and I have all the features I want. So I probably talked more than you wanted to hear, but that's it. And I'd be glad to entertain questions after we finish.
Thank you so much, Susan. Quite a lot of information on Family Tree Maker. All right, we're going to switch now over to Orv Beach, and he's going to talk to us about Gramps.
Okay, how's my audio, John?
Good.
Very good. Let me share my screen here. Which screen is it? I always struggle with this. Get too many screens. Can you see my screen, John?
Yep, see Gramps.
Okay, thanks to APCUG for letting me do this presentation. I noticed I had done one about 5 years ago, so I went through and pretty much every slide had changed. So about Gramps, I think they called it Gramps and then made up the acronym behind it, Genealogical Research and Analysis Management Programming System. In any case, it's an open source community project. What that means is the software, the source code for the software is available to the public for inspection and modification. It's become a very popular method of software development. A lot of the popular programs you use are now open source in some shape or form. Over and above Gramps, all of LibreOffice is open source. These kind of programs are community supported. And as far as Gramps goes, a little history. I've been using Linux for a long time. I was transitioning from Windows. I was dual booting Windows and Linux in the early 2000s. And the only thing I was booting back into Windows was for Family Tree Maker. Back then it was Family Tree Maker for Windows because I assumed they had a DOS version. But I wanted to get off of Windows and go full-time Linux, and I was looking around for a genealogical database for Linux. And at the time, all of them were available were, I guess it would be charitable to call them lame, not very functional. But then I wandered across this new project called Gramps in its very early infancy. I think it was version 0.01 was the version number. And I watched it over a number of months as it developed, because they had a number of contributors and it was advancing rapidly. It got to the point where I thought, well, this could work. So I did a GEDCOM, I called it GEDCOM, I guess GEDCOM is correct. Did a GEDCOM export out of Family Tree Maker for Windows and did an import into Gramps. And it worked, except one field errored out. I thought that was weird. And the main developer had his email address in the header of the program. So I emailed him about it and he answered promptly. And after some back and forth emails with him, he said, "You mind sending me your export file? I'd like to look at it." No, not at all. About a half a day later, I got an email back from him, said, "Thanks, that's fixed. It'll be in the next release." So that's how you can contribute with bug reports and input. Made me feel pretty good. Sometime later, I was working with Gramps and I had an issue on how do you graphically display two sets of parents, birth parents and adoptive. And I asked him about it and he says, "Well, what do you think?" So we exchanged emails back and forth for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, and he ended up incorporating a couple of my ideas. That was in the early 2000s, and Gramps has been growing ever since. By the way, because it's open source, that means it's free. You're welcome to use it as many places as you want. You can give it to your friends or show them how to download it. It says created and developed by genealogists. I just took that from their webpage. Intuitive for hobbyists, I guess. I've been using it for almost 20 years now, so I know most of the nooks and crannies. Although I have to admit, I discover something new every once in a while. Feature complete for professional genealogists. That was on their page. I threw it in there as a bullet. As you'd expect, it has most of the features that Susan talked about. And by the way, props to Susan. I really enjoyed that presentation. I opened my eyes on a few things. Anyway, you can bookmark any number of individuals for quick access. Preset and custom filters, as you'd expect. Link any media or file type to your family tree. I use graphical files and a few PDFs. I know you can attach, you know, Word documents or MP3 files to it also. I don't. As you'd expect, it has a privacy option. Any data can be excluded from any report or any data export. Multiple calendars and data ranges are supported. I only use the one calendar. View, edit, and save image EXIF data. EXIF data is the data embedded in a photo that lets you update information about the photo. Place taken, date taken. I actually tried this the other day and it does work. They have add-ons you can optionally add if you decide you need them. They call them Gramplets, which is cute. Languages. The interesting thing about an open source project is that you can, if your country language is not supported in an open source program, you can volunteer to do the translation for all of the menus and stuff. And people have done so with Gramps. It's now available in 43 languages. And I'm not sure what a custom language is, but if you have a custom language, it'll support it. Relationship calculators are available in 4 languages. Full Unicode code support. Most of us are used to, in the past, ASCII. It's the 8-bit code that's the alphabet and not much else. In order to display graphical characters that are letters or other symbols that are used in other languages, they need 16 bits. And there are full maps of what symbol is represented in those 16 bits. And most open source programs are now supporting all of the Unicode maps, which means you could put somebody's Chinese name in if you wanted. Tools, lots of database utilities. It'll regenerate indices, index files, all the things you need to do to keep it healthy. Oh, and speaking of keeping healthy, I'm just going to reiterate what Susan said. Don't keep one copy. In the early days of PCs, I was an IT manager, and I told people there are only 2 kinds of computer users: ones that have had a hard disk crash, and those that are going to have a hard disk crash. So myself personally, I don't save any data on my workstation here. We have a household file server, what they call a NAS, a network attached storage. It's off in the workshop on an uninterruptible power supply. It has redundant disks inside, and nightly it backs up changed files to an external drive. Additionally, quarterly, my daughter brings back my other backup drive from her house 30 miles away, and I refresh all changed files to that. And 30 miles away is far enough away to where an earthquake that destroys my house won't hurt hers. So be serious about your backups. Research and analysis tools, we can go over those. Event comparison, duplicate people finding, interactive Descendant browser. One thing I found, I did an unfortunate merge a number of years ago, and I did it badly. So I still have a number of duplicate people in there. And when I find them, I use the merge facility to pull them together. And frequently those two people data entries have different bits of information, and I can decide what to pull into the person. Additionally, early on, I was not real consistent about place names. and I can now merge 2 places into one. And I've been doing some of that maintenance over the last year. Soundex I've never used, but apparently there are standard codes used to compare similar sounding names. Lots of views. People, that's me. And these are people sorted by last name. This is a relationship viewer. I don't use that one too much. I like the families better. That's my grandfather and grandmother there. And this is the chart. This is the tree. This is the format I prefer. And this is me and my ancestors. I have about 6,300 people in the database, I think now. This is an event filter. I did this just for fun. I said, select type birth, people with the last name of Beach, mine, and I found them here. You can sort and select 9 ways from Sundays. And there are other tabs down here at the bottom where you can look at stuff. Places. I just pulled this up here and I noticed I've got 2 Fairfield, Kentucky's here in Casey County. I need to merge those. And down here, I have 2 Jefferson towns. And I've got to clean, oh, yeah, Jefferson County has Jefferson Town twice, so I've got to fix that. A lot of good tools for maintaining data integrity. Sources, I'm more rigorous about sources now than I used to be, but it still needs work. Here's where you edit a person. This is me. I did notice one bug in this. I'm going to go have to fix it. My wife and I have been married much longer than 25 years. I may drop a note to them about that. I think that's a bug. Here's notes. I said, show me all the person notes, and there are different types of notes with last name of Clark, which is my mother's maiden name. And I found all of the notes in there that mention Clark. Again, all sorts of reports. You can customize them. We'll go through those. Output formats. You can generate PDF and open document format. That is the native output format, the default output format for LibreOffice. ODF is an ISO format. That's the International Standards Organization. The layout of all files in an ODF format is clearly defined by the ISO. I don't know what number it is, but the ISO document. So anything that's in ISO ODF format can be imported by any other program that knows that ISO format. Unlike Microsoft Word, which is a proprietary format, poorly documented and changes from time to time. Anyway, HTML, rich text format, LaTeX, which is a layout format, an older layout format, and just plain text. And you can generate a book report. I've done this a couple times. You collect whatever reports you want in a single document and send them out to the specific person. I just did this for a family reunion a number of years ago, and it was very popular. Ancestors and descendant charts in different formats, as you'd expect. Box and fan charts, they're kind of fun to mess with. And different formats for charts and graphs. Open document draw, again, an ODF format file, PDFs, PostScripts, and SVG. And SVG is a graphical format like JPG and PNG, and all of the popular programs can view them. And custom charts. I haven't tried that. I like, they have a wide variety of stock charts, and they've been fine for me. And you can export to web pages. I have an inexpensive cloud server of my own, like $5 a month, and I export all of these to web pages, thousands and thousands of web pages up there, and it's very handy because Google's web crawler will find it and find the names, and if you do a search on a person's name and it's on one of my web pages, they'll find it, and I get emails 3 or 4 or 5 times a year from people who are doing genealogy research, and they'll ping me about some additional information or contribution. Here's an ancestor graph for me. I limited it to 3 generations, so it would show up nicely here. I think I have 11 generations back. Actually, no, I have more than that now. Obviously, if you try and put those on a piece of paper, you either get a very, very large piece of paper or very, very microscopic print. Here's a fan chart. You can get full circle or half circle. They're nice to look at. Okay, genealogical research. A lot of these Susan already mentioned. I use Find a Grave a lot. I use Family Search a lot. Linkpendium is maintained by a friend of mine. You might want to look at it. It's links of links, and they're always updated. I have thousands and thousands of references in there. And I consider myself less a genealogist and more of a family historian, because my family's been over here, both sides, for 300 years. We have lots of descendants in the US, and I had 33 first cousins myself, and they took 300 years to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, and every one of them left litters of kids and grandkids wherever they settled as they moved across the country. A lot of them are my age or younger, and I've had quite a bit of good luck bringing the most current generations of ancestors in by linking up with them on Facebook. Saved a lot of outside research. Most of them are fairly cooperative. Installing Gramps, there is Windows up there, but that was not their final. Initially, Gramps was strictly for Linux, and they weren't interested in Windows or Mac. But because it's open source, after it gotten more popular, a group took the source code and compiled it for Windows. Excuse me. And the Gramps organization said, oh, okay, we can host it on our site. So anyway, if you're running Linux, it's available in most Linux distribution repositories. Just use your software installer to search for it and install it. If you're feeling brave and want to do it from the command line, it's sudo apt-y install Gramps. Poof, done. For any Debian or any one of the Ubuntu derivatives. And there's more installation up on grampsproject.org. It's a very well documented site, tons of information, and that's where you get the Gramplets too, and it explains what they do and how to install them. And you install them from within the program, so it's pretty painless. So anyway, that's my online web export, and I guess we'll go there. And here, let me go here. I got to start up my browser. Where's my browser? Oh, here we go. Hello. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I had it minimized. You know, I should have this bookmarked. There we go. There are 2 or 3 different methods of exporting web pages. The original one was just a pretty stock, static display. This latest one I adopted is more dynamic. Let's search for Beach, Orville, and it will find everybody that has that combination in there. Here's me. There's my father. There's my grandfather. So I'll click on my grandfather. Birth, death, burial, and this is all. This is not editable. This is just an export for reviewing. This is what I give to people I'm working with to invite them to look it over and report any errors or additions. And this is the graphical or non-graphical. This is the textual part. All of his siblings, all of his children, they were prolific back then. But then you can go over to the family tree or the tree here. And you get this kind of view. And you can move up and down, you can zoom in and out. That's probably pretty hard to see here. Let me zoom in. So that's my grandfather, his father, great grand. It goes back quite a ways. You can additionally, let me go back to the original tree. Here we go. You can, with these gears here, you can change the way all of this is displayed. Very handy. The indexes, you can search for surnames, individual sources, media, places. Let me go back home. There we go. So that's my presentation on Gramps. Because it's free and you haven't settled on a genealogy program yet, I guess I should go through the how about if I go through the program? Let's fire this up. Okay, I have a Gramplet open here for Descendants. You can go people, relationships, families. These are women with no registered husband. That's because that's why those are blank. Currently, these are alphabetized, but you can search and sort however you want. I did the chart. If you click on something like my grandfather, it'll recenter on him. If you right click, you can edit, find spouses, siblings. Again, he had lots of brothers and sisters. I could set him as a home person. I have a few bookmarks set, him and my other grandfather. So you can add as many bookmarks as you want. Reports, you can generate a book. I'm not going to go through that. Graphs for family lines, hourglass, relationship, graphical reports, ancestors, descendants, family trees, fan charts. I don't know if I could do a fan chart of, I can do that. Here, let's see. Yeah, there we go. That was my grandfather. Oh, that's still, I only have it set for 4. Let's try that again. Reports, graphical reports, fan chart. Let's go crazy. There we go. So quite a few of those are blank, but you get the idea. It's very flexible. Text reports, lots and lots of text reports. And again, any one of these reports can be plain text, ODF, PDF, whatever you want. Web pages, I do the dynamic web report, the one you saw, but there are others here too. You can generate them and you can look at them. It'll put it in a directory on your computer and you can look at it with a browser and see if that's what you like. Oh, this is where you add people. You can add them on the fly, configure it. Goodness, let's see. Let me go to my mother and me and my son and his son. And if I edit him, this is how you edit him. In the gallery, you can add as many photos as you want. The leftmost one, the first one, is the one it defaults to in his display. But as the kids grow up, I'll throw a newer one in here, try and get a current photo. I think I will call it there. I am done. It's all yours, John.
Well, you know how well I like that when you said it was open source. Okay. And as in the computer world, there's always more than one way to do things. So we're going to move on to Murray, and he's going to show us another option for genealogy recording. Go ahead, Murray.
Okay, thank you. Now, I guess I will see if I can share my screen and see if I can figure out how to get the right one. Let me see. If I do, well, let me try. see if I can find the right thing. Oh, there we go. You can get my lever up there. Okay. Okay, we'll try sharing this one. See if this will open. Okay, is that showing? I can't tell if it's showing.
Yep, I see RootsMagic 8.
Okay, good. So then I'll go to the slideshow. Okay, I'm going to go through this. I have through my bunch of slides, and first of all, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to make this presentation, and I hope that you'll find it interesting. I do want to dedicate this to memory of John Carruthers and Joan McIlmoyle Cleghorn, both of whom were very instrumental in getting me hooked on genealogy. Although I have to say that John Carruthers, when he developed cancer, he coaxed me into taking over the leadership of the genealogy group. And I'm afraid I'm nowhere near as good as he is. He had 40,000 people in his family tree, and he was very well organized. Basically, I started with computers in 1959. I've been involved with Linux. It's my preferred operating system, and I'm quite active in that group. I lead a genealogy group, and I'm quite active in the Victoria Genealogical Society, and I do training in genealogy, and as I say, lead that group. Well, what is RootsMagic? Well, it's a genealogy software program. And Wikipedia's definition is that it's computer software used to record, organize, and publish genealogical data. And RootsMagic, like Family Tree Maker and Gramps, is just one of many popular examples of the web-based systems. Now, I'm going to basically be talking about RootsMagic 8. And that is actually a program, a version of RootsMagic that is currently only still in the beta testing phase. However, it is going to become the standard, and it's so different from RootsMagic 7, which has been around for quite a while. I actually started with RootsMagic 4, and have been going through all the different versions. But RootsMagic 8, now during the beta test, well, they're in the beta testing phase, and they have now opened it to everybody. So anybody can use it now. 2 months ago, I would not have dared use that for my presentation because there were a lot of problems with it. However, I've been, testing it. They fixed all of the bugs that I've reported to them, and hundreds and hundreds more. This has been something that was originally promised for delivery a few years ago, and it still isn't quite out. The beta, when you install it, and I'll show this later, there's a key that you can use it for free, the full capability. And as I say, it's now at a stage where I think it's quite usable. Okay, now the genealogy software is data stored on your computer. And basically, this is opposed to something like, well, some web-based ones. It's like Gramps and Family Tree Maker in that the data is stored on your computer, but again, I will re-emphasize, back it up, make sure that it's backed up, and at least 3 different ways. So in effect, I actually store all my data in one of the cloud-based programs, and it's synced actually to all of my computers because I have that. And my location for that is actually in New Zealand, so it's not even in the same continent. Okay, for the web-based storage, these are systems that are based on, you basically access them and change them, modify them, and so on through a web interface. And there are really two classes of these. One of these is you create your own family tree, or the other kind is a community tree. And I already mentioned family search, and that is basically a wiki, in that it's a collaborative effort. There's one huge tree with millions and millions of people on it, and everybody can contribute and change it, which it can be a blessing, but it can also be a bane. In my particular case with my Swedish ancestors, people keep changing things for very poor reasons. In those web-based things, you usually are asked to give a reason for why you make a change, why you add something, but some of the reasons are really ridiculous and they're wrong. So, and in that particular case, for my Swedish ones, I've got so many people changing it that it's really hard to keep a few things straight. Okay, but before you get started in using any of these programs or systems, you should take an inventory of what have you got. What is the information you have about your family tree? What's the format? Where is it? And for example, it could be in paper form. You might have an old family Bible. You might have the family tree that, well, in my case, I've got, my starting point was really three things. And one was a chart that was drawn up by professional genealogists in England for my grandfather's family. And I thought it was really great because it was done by a professional genealogist. But when I started entering data into the program, I found, hey, it wasn't that hot after all. It was okay for the male ancestors, but when it came to females, I guess the genealogists in London did not think they were very important. So the information about them is very sparse. And in fact, it took me nearly 7 years to find out the first name of my grandmother's father. That's how difficult, how poorly it was documented. Now, I recommend that you do open a free account at Family Search. That is the Mormon or LDS church site. That is the one where their philosophy is that everybody who has ever lived and whoever will live is part of one huge family tree. And so you are part of that tree. When you open an account, you'll have to provide some information, but you don't have to worry about privacy because, as what mentioned by the previous speakers, generally anybody who is living, any information about living people is hidden to the rest of the world. Only you can have access to it, to the information that you enter about living people. But again, you have to be careful that you don't make a mistake and say that somebody has been deceased when they're still alive. Okay, so as I mentioned, all of these paper records, photos, media stories, and so on, you're going to have to gather those together and organize them and preferably digitize them. Some of these you may not have yourself. So for example, you may know that in my case, my sister has my mother's birth certificate. Well, keep track of where that is. And if you, maybe you can get your relatives to make you a copy that you can put on your computer. Okay, now, do you have some information on your computer? If you've been using some other program, software program, or programs, what is it? Or have you been using a genealogy website like Ancestry? Again, what ones do you have? Or maybe you started this a long time ago before they had any of these software programs, and maybe you've got it in a spreadsheet or in a Word document or something like that. So all of these things will help you to decide how to go about and how to get started with RootsMagic or for that matter, any of these other programs. Then there's the question of where do you store your data? And basically in RootsMagic, and in some of the other ones too, I think probably all of them, you can sort of set a default area where you might want to keep your the various files that the program creates. And typically, when there's a couple of defaults usually with RootsMagic. One is in your documents folder on your computer, or your library if it's on a, well, I guess it's documents on a Mac as well, and even in Linux. And but the other option that it likes is Dropbox. But you can set it up to go anywhere, maybe Google Drive. I used to like Dropbox the best of all of them until they changed the free account to limit you to 3 devices. And I have a lot more than 3 devices. And I didn't want to pay for it. I really only wanted the free version. So I don't use it so much anymore. Google Drive is another possibility. Again, some people are paranoid about Google having access to all your information, although it is fairly well protected. I am using something called mega.nz, which is, they're very security conscious. They're based in New Zealand, and you get 15 gigabytes free, which is really enough for your genealogy stuff. I would say if you're going to have photos, probably the most cost-effective place to put that is in Google Photos, but that's just my opinion. If you're on a Mac, you might want to put it in your iPhotos, but you're limited in how much space you can have before you have to start paying. Okay, now what I would suggest you do is you set up it's kind of a directory structure, and I've just shown this. This would be, for example, either in documents or in your Dropbox. You set up a master file, that might say RootsMagic 8, and then is subdirectories or subfolders for backup, because most of these programs, I'm not sure about Gramps, but on most of them, when you close your program, that is after you finish working on it, it will ask you if you want to do a backup. And I usually, if I've made any changes, I do. If I've only been looking at it and I haven't made any changes, I don't bother. The data is where the actual database is stored. If I create a GEDCOM, or if I get some GEDCOM from somebody else, I'll put it in the GEDCOM file. I put all the media that are related to genealogy in the media file, although there I might actually not put the media in there. If I have my all my photos organized, I may just put links to the actual photos in the media folder. And then the reports, where this is where the reports, I have it set to save reports. Okay, now, so I'm going to just briefly go through how you download and install it. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because it's like most other software. Basically, if you do it, go to this link, which will be in the handout, or if you just simply do a Google search for download, install a RootsMagic 8 beta, it will come up, it will find this page pretty quickly. And you'll notice that there are 2 versions of it. One is for Windows users and one is for Mac OS users. And if you're using Windows, you really have to download and install both of these files. And interestingly enough, you'll notice that it says RootsMagic 7.9 something, although it is RootsMagic 8. And also, if you are going to install this on Linux, which I have done, you will download the Windows version. Okay, now when you go to the download page, it'll say to download it for RootsMagic 8 for Windows and Windows, and it will give you a registration key. This is a key that will allow you to access the full capability of the software. Basically, RootsMagic always has a sort of a free version and a paid version. Now, if you're going to just try it out or use it without paying anything for right now, you can use the key that they supply. This particular one will expire at the end of this month, but I just checked with them yesterday and they will be sending a new key that will be good till at least the end of May. So you can enter this one, but if you happen to have purchased RootsMagic 7 in the last few years, you will have also gotten a key for RootsMagic 8 included with that. And you can use that key and then it won't expire and you'll just be able to keep using it. That's in fact what I did. Okay, when you get to the next page, you'll have to enter your name and your email address in order, just typical kind of thing for downloading programs. I can't remember, but I think that it will then send the link for the actual download to your computer. After you've installed it, and I'm not going to go through all of this, I think you all know how to install software both on Windows or Mac if you're using one or the other. And you'll come up to this little screen and it will ask you which version you want to install. The RootsMagic Essential is the free version. Purchase full RootsMagic full version. I'd recommend you try it out before you buy it if you haven't already got the key. Or the one I suggest you use is Unlock RootsMagic full registered version. And of course, you want to make sure that you know that you copy that key so that you will be able to unlock it after you installed it. Okay, when you first open the screen, you're going to get a screen like this. And before you do much, you have to do your, you'll have to create a file, either create a file or import something from another program. This pane shows you some of the latest news. And if you click on any of these, it will take you to your web browser and it will open up a page that will give you the details about that news. Down here, a lot of this is mostly educational things. There are some videos about, they're called The Road to RootsMagic 8, which show some of the features in much more detail than I'm going to show you today. But a lot of the tutorials and things like these magic guides and a lot of the RootsMagic TV and I think all of the webinars are really more geared for RootsMagic 7. They will eventually be updated, but I'm not sure when. So a lot of them are not very relevant because this program is so different that it's almost like using a completely different program. This is very important. Updates. If there is an update to be done, when you first install it, there probably won't be any updates because you've just installed the latest version. But because this is beta, it is changing very rapidly. And there's updates, I'd say, almost every week. And I really recommend that you get the update because I have found that certain features don't work if you haven't done the update. They may have worked before, but they don't work once the update's available. I don't quite understand why that's the case. So this is what that pane looks like when there is an update available. And you basically just click on this arrow and it will ask you if it will download the update and you'll go through the usual procedure and say that you close your RootsMagic 8 and then start it up again after the update has been done. Okay, so I'm going to go, sorry. I'll go to this screen and you'll see here there's the options here. And before you do much, you've got to do one of these. You can either create a new file, and that's certainly what you would be doing if you were going to be starting out and with only basically paper documents or spreadsheets or something like that, if you haven't had another software program, or if you don't have a family tree on any of the websites, then that's pretty well what you've got to do. And you basically have to create a new file. You have to give it a name. You start out by entering the names of people that, well, you normally, the recommendation, you start with yourself, enter all your information like your date of birth and so on, and then continue on with your parents, siblings, and so on, fill out your tree. However, if you have a family tree in one form or another from a computer program, or maybe you've gotten a GEDCOM from a friend or a relative, then what you're going to be wanting to do is import a file here. And I'm just going to show you, there's two types of file that you can import. You can import for another program. And for example, if you've been using RootsMagic 1 to 7, you can import your old file from those. Then you'll see there's all of these other programs that allow you to import the information from it. If you didn't have your family tree created with one of these ones, and you'll notice that Family Tree Maker is one of them there, but Gramps is not, then in that program, for example, Gramps, you would have to do something like create a GEDCOM and then import that. Then the other alternative is to download from an online tree. And there's only two supported here. If you have your family tree on Ancestry, you can import your family tree from that. And I think somebody mentioned that you can't download a GEDCOM from Ancestry. I know that there's lots of things you can't do. I know you can't download DNA matches from Ancestry, and that could be, I'm not sure. But you can import your family tree from Ancestry if that's where you've got it. And then Family Search, which is the LDS, I'll call it crowdsourced website. And that is what I'm going to just demonstrate here very briefly. I should mention that the family tree on Family Search is by far the biggest, well, online or any database. It has over 1.2 million people in it, and it has over, I think, 8 billion records, like birth certificates, death certificates, indexes, church records, all that kind of newspapers, all that kind of stuff. It's really an amazingly big site, and it's growing fast because there's over 300,000 volunteers who are busily looking at old paper documents, microfiche and so on, and indexing them, that is putting them into computer compatible form. And you can even volunteer. If you volunteer, they'll send you a few sample documents and ask you to enter the information that is contained on them. I've done a little bit of that. It's a little bit time consuming, but it's something that's a little bit of fun if you've got a little bit of time to do that. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, let's input the data from Family Search. And now what it will do, as soon as you do that, it'll ask you to go to your folder settings, or one of the things you want to do is do the folder settings. And these are the places that I showed you how I set up the directory structure. And here I have set these as my default places to save the RootsMagic 8 media files, or the different files. Okay, and it will say that it wants you to create, very first thing, it wants you to create a new RootsMagic file. And here, it will give you this location. This is the location that I set up as my default. It doesn't show on this screen, but there's a little arrow over here. I would normally select that, but you can select any other place you want on your computer. These are some of the ones that have recently been used, but you can use your Windows Explorer or Finder in the Mac and find any other file if you decide you want, for some reason, you want this particular one in a different place. Okay. So then it will say the next one is to import from family search. And there are some options here to set up, and I took the screenshot before I made a couple of the changes I make. I always change this format to the long date format, and I change this one to the family search ID. The default is none. And the reason for this is the standard date format used by family search, and I want to make sure that my information is compatible with family search. And this, by changing this to the family search ID, this makes it a lot easier to keep track of people. If I've got the same person on my in my RootsMagic as is in the family search huge family tree, it's a lot easier to find them and check to see if I've got the right one and all that. Some people like to display surnames in uppercase. I don't. I don't do that. LDS support is really not appropriate unless you happen to be a member of the LDS or Mormon Church. If you are, then there's all kinds of special things that are included in the information that aren't pertinent to non-members. I always make sure that these 3 boxes are checked when I click OK. Okay, so I'm going to, just for the fun of it, I'm going to import a tree from family search. Now, normally I would probably start with me or one of my ancestors, but just for the fun of it, I'm going to pick somebody else. And the person I'm going to pick is King George VI. And I know that there aren't many living descendants, many deceased descendants, so I'm just going to put 2 here. And while it could go back 10 or 15 generations, I'm only going to import 3 of those. So then when I click on import, it will ask you to sign into your family search. That's why you would want to have a set family search account. And then you have to enter your password for that. I always check these 2 boxes so that whenever I close the program and come back again, I don't have to enter this stuff again. So I entered my username, but you would enter yours there. So then you'll come up with this screen. And actually, this is one of the things that I found if I'm trying to do this and I haven't updated RootsMagic, this one will not work. It'll sort of get a little ways and then it'll stop. But if you're updated to the latest one, then it goes okay. Although this does take quite a while. So what you want to do is go ahead and go off and do something else. Go get yourself a drink or have a nap or something while it's chugging away. Okay, now then, so this is an example. This is what I downloaded. Here is King George VI. Princess Margaret, I think, is the only one who was deceased. And then here are the ancestors back a few generations. I only put in 3 generations, so it only goes back this far. And you see there's some that are blank. You could add a father if you knew who it was. And you'll see that there's all these little symbols along the inside the boxes. And this blue one is telling you that there is somebody that it thinks is in family search that corresponds to this person in your RootsMagic. Now you'll notice they all have blue buttons, and that's no great surprise because you imported the data from family search. So obviously they're going to be matching somebody in family search. There's another one that appears fairly often, and this is a little yellow light bulb. This is telling you there's a web hint. What this means is that some site, and it could not necessarily family search, it could be Ancestry or MyHeritage or Family Tree no, I forget what it is. Anyway, one of these other sites will has found records for this person. It might be a census record, it might be birth record, might be a death record, and so on. As I said, or a newspaper article. And when you click on that, and if we get time for a little bit of live demo in a few minutes, I'll show you what that looks like. It'll show you what all those web hints are, and you can take a look at them and either verify them, say, yes, this is a record, this is the person that I'm looking at, and then it will import it into your program for you, and it will verify that that is an actual record. Now, you'll notice a few of them have these little red circles with an exclamation point. And this means that there is some potential error. Not necessarily an error, but it could be an error. There are lots of things that could trigger this. Of course, some are real errors. For example, if a child is born after the mother has died, or if a child is born before the mother was born, those are obviously there's some kind of error in the information on that person. And this is the kind of thing that you would get. You'll notice here that I have an error, an exclamation point here. And here is the reason that it thinks it might be a problem. It says that Elizabeth, that was King George VI's wife, was 101 years old when she died. Well, I don't remember for sure if she was 101. I do know that she lived a long time. The proper procedure here would be to look at the documentation, see what you can find for information. If you find a record that, maybe her obituary or a newspaper article about her funeral that confirms that she was 101, then you'll click on not a problem. If you don't want to deal with it right now, you can click on add to task list, and this will create a task for you. You can have this list of tasks that are basically saying, I'm going to do this later on, and the task list will serve as a reminder. You could print it if you want to, but if it is a problem, if you know that she was 101, then you can edit the person and make whatever changes you need to. So, whoops. So I'm going to, before I go to the live thing, if we have time, I'm going to mention a few additional comments. First of all, it's a real challenge to keep different versions of your family tree synchronized. And you really have to have one to be your reference and keep the others synchronized to it. And you can synchronize your RootsMagic to, for example, to your family search tree, but it's still a lot of work. And if you've got trees on other sites like MyHeritage and Ancestry and so on, then it's a real challenge to keep it synchronized, especially if you've got a lot of people in there. Okay, and there are two philosophies and two approaches. One is to use your software program as the master, and the other one is to use Family Search as a master, or some other online tree such as Ancestry. So you make sure that you try to keep one of them up as being the one that you try to make sure is really accurate, and then you try to keep the rest synchronized to it. But this is not an easy job. There's no really automatic way that I've ever found to do it. And I've asked some well-known genealogists how they handle it, and they all kind of admit that it's a difficult job. Oh, and I should just say that what I find, I tend to lean towards using Family Search as a master, but as pointed out, being a wiki or community based collaborative family tree, it's really prone to errors, and so you've got to really be careful with it, and it requires checking a lot to make sure that things are right. And in my case, Swedish, the typical kinds of changes that people make. My grandmother's name was Clara Levisa, Carl's daughter, when she was born. Well, her father was John something, or was something Johnson. Okay, somebody decides, her father was Johnson, therefore her last name was Johnson, not Carl's daughter. And then the next thing they'll say is, well, she married Anderson, so therefore her last name is Anderson. Well, you're supposed to use the birth name, not the married name for names as a standard, but people just make those changes. And on it goes. Then my grandfather changed his name when he came, or around 1900. Well, so his name later on was something different than his birth name, and somebody will have changed to that. And that's a real interesting challenge to deal with. Okay, then the biggest mistake that most of us have made, and maybe even still make, and almost all genealogists will plead guilty to this one. And this is especially so when we start, we're sort of so gung-ho on trying to find as many relatives as we can as quickly as possible, that we end up with a huge family tree, and we haven't documented, we haven't checked to see what things are right or whatnot. I'll just give you a little story of my own case. When Family Search opened up their family tree to the public and made it available so that everybody could get a free account and access it, I could not find one single relative on either my father's or mother's side. About 2 years after that happened, I got an email from them that said they had found the gravestone of a relative named Liddon. Well, I didn't remember ever hearing of such a person, but I started looking into it, and sure enough, it was a cousin or something of my grandmother. And when I started looking, hey, I now had about 1,000 relatives in Family Search. And I checked out, I found out who entered that information, found out it was a cousin that I didn't know, a second cousin once removed, I think. And all of this has led to, I think I've got 13,000 in my family tree on Family Search. So it's an interesting process. But then, of course, I've got all these people that the action of trying to figure out, get rid of duplicates, get rid of errors, you just can't do it all and never be able to do it all in my whole life. So you've got to try and take little steps in order to get started on that. Now, I want to know, do I have to stop sharing my screen in order to show you the program?
No, just minimize and open up the program.
Okay, well, I'll just maximize this. Okay, I'll just minimize it. Find out where to do it. Okay. Probably maximize this. Oh, no. Oh, there. Okay. Maximize. That's probably good enough. That okay? Does that look all right?
It's still small print, but.
Oh yeah, it's going to be small print. I mean, I'd have to. I'm not going to try to show the whole detail. I just want to show some of the things that some of the features very quickly. I don't think you're going to have to read everything here. I'm sure you can see these things. I'll just make it a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. Is that better? A little bit better.
That's
Continue.
fine, Murray.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going.
So anyway, this is the typical way. This is what's called the Pedigree View. I can show different views. For example, I can show the various other views, various details. This just shows all the people who are listed in this in there. And this is family. And we can basically take a look at, I'm going to go back to the pedigree view because that's the most standard one. There are all kinds of, well, there's various settings that you can set here. I'm going to just, because I would normally do this. Let me search. Yeah, you'll notice here now, if I go back to the pedigree, you'll notice, let's see, you'll notice now that these people have this little number in brackets afterwards, at least a lot of them do. These are the LDS numbers that are associated with them in family search. Now then, publish is where you have a whole bunch of reports. So you can show, these are all of the different types of reports that you can create. So for example, if you want to do a kinship list, it'll give you the chance to do all the layouts and so on. And then where's it? Then down here, you'll see the generate a report. And this will generate a report of kinship relationships, for example. It takes a few seconds. And of course, you can change all of these kinds of things. Sometimes these things take longer than you want. Still working. Maybe it's going to take too long. Maybe it's going to take too long. This looks like.
Murray, can you back out of that, please?
That's what I'm trying to do. Maybe I'll just stop. I'll just close it. Oh, I got to go over here. Yeah, looks like it's hung. I can stop sharing for now.
All righty, John, it's your nickel right now.
My nickel, okay.
Yeah, I'll turn it back. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I'll turn it back to you, John. I think I've probably gone through enough. I guess I would just say, and to add to that is that basically I suggest that if you're interested, you download it and play with all of those different settings to look at them, see if there are things that you like. I will also mention that a few years ago, I did for a family reunion, I wanted a bunch of reports or charts and things to show off. Actually, I wanted people to, I made it on a big poster so that people could, check to see if the information that was on there was right. And I actually did use Gramps at that time to illustrate or to create the charts because I happen to particularly like the charts they created. And I just thought I would show you just the kind of thing that I started with when I started into genealogy. So this is my wife's family tree, sort of. And my cousin had done one that was just on sort of a 3 pieces of paper, handwritten, abbreviations for everything, almost illegible writing. And that's where I started entering data from those things. Anyway, I will leave over to you with one thought, and I'm going to quote Jeff Rassman from a legacy family webinars, He always ends his programs with, now remember, life is short, do genealogy first. So over to you.
All right, Judy, have your hand up.
Thank you. And hey, you guys, all three of you, Sue, Orv, and Murray, thank you for the absolutely fantastic presentations. This was not too shabby of an idea that we had. Anyway, I have 28 questions. The chat box is closed. I'm going to suggest that since you guys did a good job of putting everybody's name to go with the question, I'm going to send those 28 questions out to our three presenters, only theirs, and then I'll include the answers in all the information I send you. You're going to get a PDF of each of the presentations. Sue has an extra handout for you, and then you will get all 28 questions answered by our great presenters. And if we opened it up for everybody answering those, we'd be here till tomorrow. How about maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 type? If you have questions that you did not put in the chat box, raise your hand and we'll get our people to answer them for you. And just when you do that, just specifically say who the question is for. No takers?
Somebody's got their hand up. Pam.
And Pam, I'll be sending your question to all three of the presenters.
So I was wondering, out of all these programs, how friendly is it importing DNA data?
Well, I will just mention that the only one that the only one I know of that basically specifically says that it has special features for handling DNA is not one that was talked about today. It's called Legacy 9, and they have some special thing. But there are ways, I think there are ways that, well, for example, I'll just give the example with RootsMagic. One of the things that when you're trying to find your relatives with DNA, the typical kind of thing that you want to do is create what's called a quick and dirty family tree, and in which you put in hypotheses about how you might be related to somebody. Of course, the problem with DNA is that almost everybody who has had their DNA tested is living, and therefore doesn't show up on any of the public trees. So trying to figure out who they're related to, how you are related to them, can sometimes be difficult. And I have used RootsMagic in order to create these hypothetical family trees in order to just fill in the names of possible relationships. And you can do that with any of these programs. But as far as I know, the only one I've seen that has that special feature is, and I don't know how well it works. I do have Legacy 9, but I haven't tried it out. I think that's a new feature that was just added recently.
Both the RootsMagic and Family Tree Maker sync with Ancestry. So if you have an Ancestry account and you did the Ancestry DNA, they have a feature called Through Lines, and you can integrate that with the DNA through Ancestry, though. Okay. You would have your tree on Ancestry.
That's right.
Thomas, you got a different kind of question that hasn't been posted yet?
I haven't seen what was posted. Susan, have you heard anything about Family Tree Maker 2021?
No, I have not heard about what features they're going to put in there, but that's the next iteration.
Okay, I meant to clarify, a question that you haven't posted for us to do. Barbara.
Yes, I haven't tried any of these sites or anything yet. I'm just kind of looking what to download and log on to get started. But I was wondering how Family Search get their information information as far as death certificates, marriage licenses? Do they access the various government sites to get this information?
Yes, they do. They basically, they go into all the archives, the libraries, and physically copy the information into computer format. They manually do it. They take pictures of all of these things and send them out to their thousands of volunteers. And the volunteers look at the record and then fill in the form that enters all of the data. And as I say, they have thousands and thousands of volunteers doing this all the time.
In addition, they have documents that they have scanned that they have not indexed yet, and those are available online. They put an increasing number of those online through their catalog search, so they'd be browsable but not searchable. But they physically go into places, but they also have a huge underground storage in Salt Lake City, and they have documents there too.
Yeah, you used to be able to get access to those at the local family history center, but they stopped doing that now. The only place you can see those is by actually physically going to Salt Lake City.
Right, and they no longer send the films to libraries as they
No,
did.
they don't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Judy,
If you have a Mormon church in your area that specifically works with the genealogy folks, I recommend that you do get in touch with them and have them help you. We have one in the Santa Clarita Valley that's what they do, and they hold conferences and things like that there, and everybody is invited.
Everything is free.
They are a wealth of information. A couple of people in my computer club volunteer there. And Paul wanted you guys all to know that Linux is cross-platform. It is the only one that of the three that actually works with Linux.
Well,
and
actually, RootsMagic.
There are variations of the other programs that will work with them, but for all intents and purposes, Gramps started out as Orv said Linux, but I wanted to make sure that we always include Linux and Mac in addition to all the Windows stuff we do.
Yeah, and RootsMagic
worked really well.
Yeah, RootsMagic works on all three. It works on Linux. I've got it on Linux, and on the Mac. One of the beauties of it on the Mac, which I really like, is not only does it run on the new Macs, but I'm actually using a very old Mac right now that is at least 2 operating systems behind. Most software, when you try to download and run it, it says it's incompatible with that old operating system, but RootsMagic runs just fine on
it. Any other questions, comments? A lot of information, and as Judy has mentioned, we will follow up in a relatively comfortable as we get to it time, because we've got the VTC coming up Saturday, so we are going to be doubly loaded. We just had 2 workshops this past 2 Wednesdays, and so that means 3 workshops and 6 presentations. So Judy is going to be really burning the midnight oil for the next few weeks. I do want to say that we have looks like we have planned for 2 more workshops in May, and we'll get information out to you on that. And I know that Judy would be saying right now, we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for other ideas for workshops and presenters for those workshops. So if you have an idea of something that we haven't done already, send that to Judy. And as you've seen today, if you are an individual or you have some friends that can put on a panel workshop like they've done today, let us know and we'd be glad to host that for you. I guess anything?
Next month, it is going to be Linux 8, and then Larry Fortna, who gave the drones presentation and the PCs versus Mac, is going to talk to us about using Wise,
Oh, yes.
home automation things, the camera to set up a security system. He has done he's done that for the community where he lives in Florida. And I thought that would be interesting. And there's 3 or 4 people right in front of my very eyeballs here who are using the Wise products. Bill James has everything but the kitchen sink so far that is hooked up home automation with Wise products. They're extremely inexpensive and they are excellent stuff. So I thought you guys might think that that is interesting. And last but not least, Bill reminded me I was going to call on him first and I forgot. Bill's been doing genealogy stuff for many, many, many years, and he does it kind of a little differently. So over to Bill, and then we'll close.
Thanks, Judy. Well, I really haven't been doing it an awful long time, but it was interesting how I really got started.
Masters. Oh.
It was actually just a excuse me, a curiosity about my paternal grandmother. And I had bought a new computer in '89. I was looking for ways to use it. And so one of the first things that kind of popped up in my mind is what kind of research could I do? And so I was able to get access to some census records, just doing some rudimentary searches. And then, of course, later on, I described to some of the products that were mentioned in the presentation, Ancestry and Family Tree Maker. And then I got help from a member of my computer club, and they were able to track down my grandmother. I always knew her by apparently it was a nickname that my father used, and I guess everybody else, and it was a kind of a shortened version of her real name. So even on her gravestone, it was given as Ida. And so I was looking at these census records, and I just ran up against stone walls. So fortunately, and this is something that you might think about if you're interested in doing ancestry, you're not really that savvy and trying to find out information, is that you just may want to help a member of your computer club if you have a genealogy SIG in your club, and they'll give you a wealth of information. Of course, just give them give them the things you're looking for. But fortunately, this one individual kind of took an interest in that project and was able to find my paternal grandmother, and her name was Alida, Alida, and so they had shortened it to Ida, and so it just took, it was efforts to try to. I would have never found that out. But anyway, some of the other genealogy programs I'm using is the Legacy program, which I have documentation, and I'm also using myheritage.com. I did go in and submit some DNA information in Ancestry, and then I was later able to import that into MyHeritage as well. So I was able to utilize that. And what's happened in that instance is that in particularly Family Tree Maker, there was a lot of hits based on my DNA. But as everyone pointed out, those are all live individuals, so they can't really be used in your family tree per se. But at least you can get a link to other individuals in your family that you may not know. And then, of course, they can provide information to help you find out more about your ancestors. Now, on my maternal side, those relatives are totally immersed in Ancestry.com. I mean, we have just a network of information. So my mother's side of the family is really being researched, and we kind of put family genealogy committee together that meets regularly using Zoom. And we're really concentrating on two lines. There are two brothers that we have kind of concentrated on. As someone pointed out earlier about the vast number of people that you can have, it is really advantageous to kind of narrow your search down to specific people, or else form it out to others, because can be very overwhelming. And some of the other things is I do keep use my mobile devices for ancestry and heritage, because I like to be able to have quick access, particularly if you're in a conversation, you don't want to be lugging around a computer or a laptop. You can have all that information on your mobile devices. Like on my smartphone, I have both my heritage and also ancestry on it. And some of the obstacles I ran in as being an African American is that there's few records that are available prior to 1856. So you really have to go through this really intensive research into slave records, and there's other sources like Civil War African American Sailor Search, Freedmen Bureau of Bank Records, and other things that you can find to try to get back. But that's one of the things that I have found out about working with genealogy. Anyway, it's a fun project, and I think it's something that you're never really finished. So you're expecting to have a finished product at one day. You probably want, as someone said, that you'll probably be putting your genealogy records in your will. So that's just my perspective. And thanks, Judy, for allowing me to share.
You're welcome. Hey, my mother's name was Elise Fanny, Eloise Fanny, and everybody called her Bobby. What can I tell you? When I retired, I thought, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to go back and I'm going to do all of this genealogy stuff. And I went to the library, and the Mormon Church was having how-tos. Bring your laptop, do your thing. And my mother's whole entire side is done out of Rexburg, Idaho. Those relatives, and my daddy's entire side of the family is done out of Martinez, just below San Francisco. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just add my kids, and the only one that shows is my Randy. And that was the extent of what I personally could do because everybody had already done it. So my youngest daughter has a friend whose mom does it, and she's going to do their dad's side of the family, because none of that is done in any way, shape, or form. But that was my beginning and ending results of working with genealogy. And I was kind of sad because it was something I wanted to do. John, over to you to close us out here.
All right. Again, we want to thank everybody for coming. When we started this about a year ago, never had an idea that we would be doing so many, and we would like to keep going. Even though things open up, we still like technology and still like workshops and learning. So please give us ideas, give us presenters, and other than that, enjoy the last couple days of April. Yes, Judy?
And we do have 2 or 3 people that are still in the witness protection program who will not be receiving any information from this workshop. And I have yet to understand that. My thinking is they really don't care if they get the link or all the handouts. Okay. I wouldn't spend over 2 hours someplace and not get everything that was available.
Yeah, and I will remind you, you have about 48 hours to get registered for the VTC this week. It's filling up, and we've got 6 really good presentations, 2 on security, which are good, 1 on iPad control and 1 on word tips. So join us, get yourself registered. And after that, otherwise, thank you so much. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bill, don't forget to save your chat.
Yeah,
you have
I'm going to do that. Thank you.
And thanks for doing the recording, because I got started late. And get however you do it from the cloud over to Judy.
I'll do that.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. See you all later.